In Nashville, there are varying reports about whether this individual was a follower of radical Islam, whether he was an extremist. In your research and investigations, have you found that he was radical in any sense and was willing to commit an act of terrorism?
So the question is, has our investigation determined whether or not he was radicalized? At this point, it's too early in the investigation to determine whether or not whether or not he had been radicalized. So we are pursuing that as a possibility, but it is too early in the investigation to determine.
The thing, I'll tell you, some of the things that bug the heck out of me when this type of thing happens is we worry. I mean, I understand the desire to assign motive, okay? But really, I mean, is that going to change the fact, whatever the motive was? Now, most of us common sense people understand his motives, okay? His motive was that he hates America, he hates our military, we're infidels, you know, all of that, all the radical jihadi stuff, okay? That's why he did it, okay? But it's almost like the media is so thirsty for a motive that softens that. In other words, they would rather just hear he was a lonely teenager, you know, in high school or whatever. He didn't have many friends. He suffered from depression. You're hearing a lot about, if you're following this, you're hearing a lot about drug and alcohol abuse. And well, has it ever occurred to you that if you're involved with a religion that wants you to die for just at any time for their cause? In other words, you might go to a mosque one day and the imam says, "Okay, it's your turn, and this is what we're going to do," and you always have to live with that. Sure as hell, you're going to be depressed, and you're going to do alcohol and drugs. Has that ever crossed anybody's mind that the reason he was doing alcohol and drugs and was depressed was that because he was part of this culture, that this captive, you know, he was captive of this, you know, it had a hold of him, and maybe he felt like he couldn't get away from it. Now see, even that sounds apologetic. You know, there shouldn't be any apologies made for this guy or any time this happens, okay? That's what bugs me. What bugs me is that, and you heard it wasn't a local reporter asking him a question. This is a news conference that's here in Chattanooga, okay? It was a stupid NBC reporter that seemed really worried about whether it was going to be, you know, the fact that he was radicalized or not. Well, hell, yeah, he's been radicalized. What? Do you just go around shooting people if you're not an extreme, you know, if there's not something wrong with you? Well, this is one thing I don't understand, is if you kill somebody, there's something wrong with you, okay? You're either, you know, there's something there, okay? And I know people just can't stand it unless they have a motive. But it just really, I'm sorry, it's a pet peeve of mine where we're so ready to apologize for this guy or to try to help. You know, it's like we're trying to help the living more than the dead. And, you know, and so if we can come up with some sort of motive that eases people's, oh, poor kid, you know, no, screw him, you know. He killed 5 of our service, you know, our 4 Marines and a sailor. Screw him. Why are you so worried about, you know, making it easy? You know, why are you so worried? I don't know. I'm sorry. That's a rant I had to have. So anyway, but I have been motivated to do something. I feel like I should do something. So I've been talking to some other YouTubers, and I'm gonna sort of revive the cricket fundraiser. I didn't get all the signatures I wanted at Eric's shoot last year, so I thought they were going to have their shoot earlier this year, and I thought, okay, I'll just go back and get all the other signatures. It'll be easier than shipping it all around the country. But I don't know if they're actually going to have a shoot this year. I haven't heard. Maybe I'm not on the mailing list anymore. But I haven't exactly, I don't know. I feel like I've fallen out of the graces of the gun community somehow. But anyway, whatever. I've talked to Jeff Cutlery Lover. I've talked to Tal Flater Mouse. I've talked to Matt 2099, Matt V 2099, and G-Webs, and I'm getting ready to ship out the crickets again. And so we're going to get those signed. We've got 2 of them, just like last year, and they're unfinished. And I want to thank Steve McNeil. I'm sorry, I really didn't plan this video. I've been eating lunch from work here, and I'm trying to get it done. But thanks Steve McNeil of Keystone Sporting Arms. He donated the crickets. Of course, he did that last year, and honestly, guys, I don't know why. I'm not going to make any excuses. That should have already been done. Those 2 crickets should have already been auctioned for a good purpose. But now I feel like that this is, I don't know why. Just call it fate or what. But now I feel like I'm supposed to, get this thing done. So, and I apologize for not getting it done sooner. Like I said, I thought we were going to the shoot. I'd get more signatures. We'd get them auctioned off, and it would be, by now, would have been over for this year. But all that said, I'm going to figure out a way, and if please, in the comments, if you have ideas. I thought once about trying to locate or contact the local families, see if we could do something for them, or maybe we could come up with some sort of, it'd be nice if some local people here in Chattanooga could come up with some sort of monument for these people. And I know that's a big project, but maybe we could use the money to get something like that. Pool our money with other resources. And I'd really like to see a monument for these guys, for these servicemen, our Marines and sailors. They're in the park. Most people don't realize that the operations center, that Naval Operations Center, is in a park area, the river park, where we go ride our bikes. Kids play there's a park there the kids can play in, and of course, they use it there. I guess sometimes they practice their diving or whatever in the water. But anyway, I'd like to see a monument placed there. And if we could work with some local people somehow to get that done, maybe we take our money that we raise. That's just one idea, okay? I want it to be something long-lasting and meaningful. So if anybody has any other ideas, just put them in the comments or send me a PM, and I'm going to get I'm sending the crickets to Matt V 2099. Matt, I'm sending them to you first. Then we'll get it to Tal Flater Mouse, and then to G-Webs, and then from there it'll go to Cutlery Lover, and it may take a U-turn. Well, I haven't contacted. I need to get in touch with Nothing Fancy. He's signed them the last 2 times. I really appreciate that too. Appreciate everybody doing it. But Campfire Talk was helping me with coordinate that the last 2 years. So anyway, the point is, we're reviving the cricket fundraiser, and just want to let everybody know that it may take us a couple of months or a month to get all the mail done and all that. So also, real quick, before I forget, how can I forget? The other day we were going to Starbucks for breakfast, and a Chattanooga police officer was coming out of Starbucks, and I just rolled down. Let's see if I can do this without getting choked up. I just rolled down the window, And I gave him a big thumbs up. And I swear to God, he smiled just like he knew what I was talking about. And I said, "Great job." And he just smiled and said, "Thanks." And then, but I didn't want to leave out, I said, you know, our servicemen, our Marines and sailors. But I want to also say how proud I am of the Chattanooga Police Department, which answered the call. And as you heard, if you listen to the press conference, you'll see that from the time the guy crashed the gate, from the time the wacko was put down, was about 5 minutes. And that's excellent work by the Chattanooga Police Department. I also want to say that I cast no blame on the service man, the Marine or sailor, whoever it was, who had their personal firearm, which was apparently a Glock 19. Or maybe it was a Glock 17, I don't know, but I imagine if it was a CCW firearm, it's probably a Glock 19. So we'll find out details on that later. But I applaud that. You know, he was taking a chance carrying his own personal weapon at that facility. And I think they should be allowed. If the military is not going to allow them to be armed, they should be allowed to be armed. That's just all there is to it. It's ridiculous that we have people in the military fighting wars for us, and when they're, you know, on our soil, they're not allowed to protect themselves. That's ridiculous. Now I understand all the other implications about that, but there ought to be somebody who's allowed. There ought to be an MP or somebody on those bases, those facilities, that are allowed to protect the servicemen and women, especially going forward. You know, there'll be other copycat type, you know, hopefully not, but you just can't take anything for granted anymore. You can't make assumptions. So anyway, I just wanted to slide this party in.